No, it's not a glitch. You have actually tuned into Retro Ratchet and we have a Ferrari on the channel. So if you want to find out what it's been like for me to drive my very first Ferrari after driving things like this, grab a coffee and stay tuned. Okay, so if you'd like your 355 or 360, and I mean Ferrari 360, not Volvo 360 featuring on the channel, then please reach out because we'll hopefully do a lot more Ferraris. So, not only is this a very special day for me, it's my 44th birthday, but it's the first time I'm going to ever drive a Ferrari. So we'll give you a walk round, a review, and I'll let you know what I've thought of it. Right, what can I tell you about Ferraris? Well, Magnum drove one, didn't he? No, that was a 308, so I have been swatting up, you see, so I'm a bit more switched on than the last video. Right, so some proper facts about this one then. The 348, it was launched in 1989, facelifted in 1993, and then production ended late 1994. So this 1994 GTS is actually a pretty rare car, you know, only a 1-year production run, and the S in GTS stands for Spider. You see, I've been swatting up. I'm a proper Ferrari expert now. I think only around 218 of these ever made. And this one's obviously yellow, most of them were made in red, so it makes it a pretty rare car. Right, let's take a wee look at the exterior. And you know, every Ferrari is stunning in my view, but looking at this one, we've got these Testarossa side slats there. I think they look pretty cool. They're kind of an epitome of these 90s Ferraris, probably 80s. Put in the comments, in fact don't put in the comments, and yeah, I am totally loving the yellow, and what I can say is I've already been out in the car and the amount of attention it gets is unreal. So moving around to the back, again you've got all these air vents here to let heat out of the engine. Again, this slatted arrangement here over the back lights, obviously the Ferrari badge, and you've got quad exit tailpipes there, so it does look really, really mean. And one thing I guess is apparent when you stand beside them, you know, there is a lot of car, you know, behind that driver's seat, you know, it is quite large. So these wheels, they are actually quite plain when you look at them. 5-spoke, they're very understated, but I think they really, really suit the car. And overall, when you look at it, it's aged really, really well. You know, it's a 1994 car, you know, it's 30 years old, and I think it still looks pretty modern. Right, on to the exciting stuff. Let's get a look at that V8. And check the size of that. Now, what a lovely looking engine bay. Check that out. Heart of the engine there, you know, it actually sits quite low the block, and you've got these big air intakes coming round here. But yeah, this is so nice. So this is a 3.4 V8, as the name suggests. That's where 348 comes from. See, more swatting up. Bosch fuel injection, 320 horsepower, or 320 PS to be precise. It's 7,200 RPM. These are dry sumped, quad cam, and that's as much as I can tell you, but that's all you need to know. And it sounds mint. But let's just stand and look at this for another 10 seconds. I wouldn't fancy doing head gaskets on the, by the way, so if the head gaskets ever go on this, don't get in touch. Let's take a look inside. Ferrari interiors are always mint. So this one, black leather, and oh, you do sit really, really low. So the first thing you do notice when you get in is the handbrake sits at this side, and no, I haven't actually forgot to put the handbrake on. It's got a function there where that's off, that's on, but you can also push it down without releasing the handbrake, just to get in and out easier. So that's pretty handy. But yeah, you sit nice and low. Pedals are offset there to the left, as you would kind of expect. Quite a small, skinny steering wheel, no airbag on these again. Too early really for airbags. Instrument panel, You've got your rev counter, red line there, up at 7,500, and the Ferrari icon there on the speed on the rev counter, so that's quite cool. And let's take a wee closer look. So the orange fonts on these as well, I think looks so retro with the line along the needles. And you've got your oil pressure and your water temperature, and then down here you've got your fuel gauge and your oil temperature. Did take me a wee while to figure out where the actual petrol gauge was when I was driving. I was fixated in here. So moving on to the centre console, I think this is pretty cool and retro. It might not be to everybody's taste because it does look a wee bit over complex, and the buttons, you know, well, they're of that era, aren't they? But it does remind me of the Alpha 164, if I'm honest. All these buttons arranged along here, but I think it's pretty cool. And you've got this wee LCD display here when that's turned on. You've got the open gate gearbox, 5-speed, dog leg, so first is air, third is air, and fifth is air. It's not as bad as people think. Once you get used to it, after maybe 20 minutes, you know, there won't be a problem. You'll know how to drive it. The seats themselves, I found them quite comfy. They're very, very firm. You know, they do hold you in, but I'm kind of picky with seats and interior and comfort, and this is pretty decent. Then on the door here, that's your door handle for releasing. That's quite stiff, and you've got your electric window switches there. So all in, it's a very nice place to be. The glove box is set quite far back there, you know, so the passenger has tons of room. But yeah, you know you're driving a sports car. Right, so here we have it. We're actually driving our first Ferrari. Well, not really my first Ferrari, but I'm just going to imagine it's my Ferrari for the day. But what an experience. So yeah, this is going to take quite a little bit of getting used to, I think. Of course, it doesn't stand out at all on these country lanes. Bright yellow, sitting low to the ground, and really noisy. Okay, so what are my first impressions on the car? Well, apart from wow, some actual practical feedback on it. So you sit very, very low. One thing that is very noticeable is the pedals are a wee bit offset to the left. You know, these are not criticisms, these are just observations on the car. The outside door mirrors, they actually seem to sit very, very high, above your shoulder height, which is interesting. That's a little bit unusual. It's probably just because you sit so low in the car. Now, obviously I'm not going to be pressing on it too much, just because of the type of car it is. But so far, what I've discovered is the steering is super accurate. It's a very, very agile car. It goes exactly where you want it to go. And now we have some diversion signs, which is not what you want when you're driving a car like this. The ride's very firm. You feel every little bump in the road, which is not too bad a thing when you're in a car like this. And just listen to that soundtrack. So the brakes themselves, they're very, very powerful, very effective. So applying a little bit of braking pressure slows the car right the way down. So loads of confidence in the brakes and the steering. It would be interesting to see how this would handle on a much faster road than the one that we are going on at the moment. It's currently dry, you know, and it would be tempting, but probably best not, as it's certainly not a car that I'm familiar with driving. The clutch is quite heavy on it, which I would expect on a car like this. But that's no big problem. It's certainly not the heaviest clutch I've encountered. Now, how does it sound? I guess that's going to be one of the big factors in buying any Ferrari, and in my opinion this thing sounds glorious. Obviously you've got the engine sitting right behind you there, so you do get quite a lot of the engine noise coming through behind you there, which is really pleasant. And the exhausts, they're not too loud, but you can certainly tell it's a V8, that's for sure. Once we get to another bit of road, we will open it up a wee bit more. So it's got a dogleg gearbox in it, and it's got this open gate here, and I've never ever driven one of these before, so it's quite interesting getting used to it. So obviously second is up in front and first is down where second would be, so you have to be super careful. You don't get carried away and drop it into first by mistake and blow the engine, which would not be a good place to be in. Have a bit of fun in second gear. So smooth. Seems the more you rev it, the smoother the engine gets. and it really does come to life higher up that rev range there. So it's definitely something you have to work hard to get its performance out of it, but it does seem to have a decent amount of torque low down as well. I mean, that's third gear there, 3,000 revs, 40 mile an hour. And it certainly isn't a slow car, and it's certainly and obviously not a supercar either. But I'd imagine back in the day it was fairly respectable. And I mean, today I still class this as a fast car today, without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, third gear there, pulls really nicely. That's interesting. The road's now closed. Wow. Okay, so we will need to find our way back. Lost in a Ferrari, so this is going to make an interesting video. I'm sure the owner will probably want his car back at some point. And we're being overtaken by a bike, isn't that strange? Yeah, I didn't think I'd be overtaken by a bike when I'm in a 348, but you know, there's a first time for everything. That was really strange. But yeah, this car's lovely. I really like how these drive. It's my first experience of a Ferrari, and I know there's a lot of reputation. I know a lot of people have said that they're not really that good, but certainly for me, again, what this video is about is me giving my opinion as a first time driver of one of these, and I think it's brilliant. You know, and it'd be interesting to drive some of the newer ones, maybe some of the older ones as well, to see exactly how they all compare. I think the gearbox is quite stiff on these, but again, it's like anything, you know, once you've had some time with it, you get used to it. It was difficult getting second there when I first jumped into it. Well, that was probably more nerves than anything. But yeah, I'd quite happily just sit in second gear all day long, pottering around like this. Right, we're now on a 60, and we get a wee bit of a straight, and we can put our foot down again. It is quite a narrow road, this, so I am slightly nervous that I'm going to meet a tractor coming the other way. But once we get a bit of line of sight, which you have now, right, second gear. As you can see, that wasn't even to the red line. I think that was about 6,000, so it still had more to give. And yeah, like I said, when that thing opens up, it really does fly. And like I mentioned, those brakes, they're so positive and predictable. Situations like that, somebody's coming the other way, you press them, it does pull the car up nice and straight, slows it right down like it should. How nice does that sound? Dropping it into second. Yeah, so that's where it's at with this car, I think. And we have another lorry in front. No! How can we be stuck behind a HGV test driving this? Sorry for any Ferrari owners out there that were thinking of also letting me review their cars. I will try and be more professional and find a route that I can find my way back and not get totally lost on, I promise. So not only are we stuck behind a lorry, but it started to rain. So there'll definitely be no messing about on country roads in the wet in this, that's for sure. Yeah, so overall, I think performance-wise, I'm personally giving this one the thumbs up. So what I would say is below 5,000 revs, you know, you do have enough torque, and then above 5,000 revs, it really opens up, and that's where it becomes exciting. So that's where it is with this car, in my opinion. Wow. Yeah, but I have to say I'm pretty impressed with it. It makes great fun, that thing. Running it through the rev range like that, yeah, really impressed. The gears are quite tall in it. It would be ideal if the gears were maybe a wee bit shorter. But yeah, I really like it. I think it's got a whole load of character about it, this car. And it's certainly one, if I ever had the money, it would be one to add to the list. So I reckon if people think that the 348 actually isn't that good and they have a bad reputation, well, It'd be interesting to see what the ones that are even better are actually like to drive. I mean, they must be spectacular. Right, so we now have my dislike about Ferrari 348s, the turning circle. That was a wee bit embarrassing at that roundabout. I think people will just be thinking that rich twat doesn't know how to drive his car. Yeah, well, maybe the second part of that was right and not the first part. Right, so we've done the drive, we've done the walk round. What do you guys think? Well, first time Ferrari driver, I'm totally sold on them. Likes and dislikes? Well, let's start with dislikes. What I didn't like was the turning circle. I mean, I am being a wee bit picky here, but I did look kind of daft out on that test drive when I had to do a bit of a 3-point turn in a roundabout. So that was embarrassing, but you would get used to that and you wouldn't do it again. I don't personally like how the pedals are offset, but that's not a deal breaker. Now, in terms of positives, 320 brake, yeah, it's not 500 or 600 brake like more modern ones, but I tell you what, it's a light car. I think it went really, really well in the context of what it is. You know, it's naturally aspirated, it revs high, and it puts a smile on your face. So, you know, below 5,000 revs, it's perfectly adequate, perfectly able, you know, to keep up with traffic. But then if you do want to have some fun, drop it down a gear, get those revs up, and the thing really does fly. But the best bit of this is the soundtrack. It sounds lovely. That's just my opinion. V8, you know, the engine is behind you, you know, so you get all the characteristics, the sound's all coming through, and I just loved it. So it is the kind of thing, you know, you could just get it on some lovely country roads, second, third gear, just the whole way, just listening to that soundtrack. In terms of running costs, well, I'm not sure how much something like this would cost to run. Put in the comments if you've owned one long term and you know. I think to buy these are in the region of £60,000 now, which actually isn't too bad for a Ferrari. I paid 50 grand for a Tesla a few years back. So if you put that in the context, it's not too bad. So what do you think? Best birthday ever? I think so. So thanks very much to the owner of this one. Much appreciated, and hopefully we'll see more Ferraris on the channel. I'll see you all next time.